if you have any questions you have that I need to work through as well, please, you can send it on the WhatsApp group. You can send it directly to me, and I will work those questions in. So you will see some of these questions that I have today is some of the previous assignments, some of the previous questions. So and then I will also from next week also add some of the questions that was given onto our WhatsApp group. So definitely, please, if you have any other questions that we need to work through, you can just forward it to me. Okay, so tonight basically it's a mix match of all the questions or all the topics that you need to focus on. So we're just going to run through a lot of these questions, and yeah, by the end of the night, I'll send the recording and the presentation on to you. It will be on the WhatsApp group, and then next week we are gonna have from next week more sessions, so Mondays and Tuesdays. Until then, you write the exam on the, I think the, what is it, the 26th of October. Okay, so this question we look at, and it's a newly released book, has sold 500 copies when priced at 150, and then they say, and 450 copies per month when priced at 200. Let X represent the price of a book and Y represent the number of copies sold per month. Assume that the relationship between price and sales is linear, and that the sales are dependent on the price of a book. The linear equation you should use to predict sales for other prices is. Okay, so we need to get to one of these linear regression lines. The first thing we will need to work out is the slope. So when we look at your standard linear regression line, the mx plus c, what we first need to work out is that m, the slope. Okay, and how we work out the slope is by looking at, let me just resize my screen again, is by looking at what we normally say the difference in your two y points divided by the difference in your two x points. Okay, so if we look at this again, they tell us that x is the price. So we have the price was given to us when there's 500 copies, the price is 150. That was our first point. Price 150. We get 500 copies, and when the price was 200, we got 450 copies. Okay, so we can then say the difference in the copies, that's y. So we had 450 copies and we had 500 copies, so that's your 2 Y points. And your 2 X points is when we had 450 copies, it was priced 200. And when we had 150, it was, when we had 500, it was priced 150. So then we can say at the top 450 minus 500 is minus 50. At the bottom 200 minus 150 is positive 50. So our slope will be negative 1. Okay, so we can now look at the options, and we can already see, okay, our slope should be negative 1. So that is one of the options. Okay, so if we look at all of those, that is actually the option that we will go for, because the others don't have a negative 1. But we can also just check it. So our formula is then slope negative 1 plus c. So then I can use any one of those 2 points to put into that straight line, so that we can see if we then get to any of those. So y was 500, and that is equal to minus 150 plus c. So c, if we take then the minus 150 to the left-hand side, that will become positive 150. So c will be equal to 650, which you can also see is the option that we have. So we basically could work out with those 2 points the slope of the straight line. Already with that, we could have identified the option that you could pick. So also in the exam, if you only have that one to pick, I would pick it and go on. I would not even work out the second step. Also, again, you are timed in the exam, so you need to finish it. So if there is questions that you can do quicker than others, go for that. But yeah, so we got, by looking at the 2 points, we could work out the slope, and then we could use any of those 2 points, put it back into that portion that we already have, and we could work out what your y cutoff is, or your c value. Okay, we will do a few of these tonight in all different ways. So where they give you a word sum, where they give you just the 2 points, where they give you other information. So a lot of the work of the examples in tonight's session is actually going to be around this topic, but there will be 1 or 2 others as well. But I thought this is actually a very important topic that you guys need to know for the exam. So we will have a few of them tonight. So for this one, there is some way of just a summary of how it was worked out as well. So again, I will share this afterwards, that you have it. And remember, you are a allowed to have this with you when you write the exam. So remember, it is open book, so you are allowed to have all your notes. And this is, when I share it with you, this is notes that you can have. So you are allowed to have this with you when you're writing exam. Okay, then I know we did some sampling methods. So I thought let's just include one or two questions on that, because it's not always that clear how they can ask the sampling methods, because they can't really tell you yes data and you're going to sample out of it or anything like that. But they can ask you around the theory of a sampling techniques. Um, so here they ask us the type of sampling that gives each population unit the same chance of being selected. Okay, so if I look at something like that, I want to say it's it's random, because it gives each person or each population unit the same chance. So if I look at everybody that's online tonight, and nearly to say I need to pick one of you guys, I would have just randomly selected somebody. If it needs to be everybody have the same chance, so I would have said probably simple random sampling. Let's just look at the other systematic. So there's not that I pick the second person on the screen and then the fourth person after that and the fourth person after that. So that's not happening. So it's definitely not systematic. Stratified, I'm not gonna say I first gonna divide it into two groups, people that have joined previously, people that have joined via WhatsApp. I'm not gonna split it up or stratify it into other different samples. I'm just simply gonna do a random sample and anybody has a chance if we do a simple random sample. Okay, so simple random sample, when everybody have the same chance. And what I also just included is a definition on that. They will not ask, well, they can't, because you're writing multiple choice, they can't ask you to remember what the definition is of simple random sampling or stratified, but they can do it in this format where they give you how it will be done, and then you need to select one of the options. Okay, so that's the most likely one that they would, how they would ask it. So you can nearly put a list together of, and that's maybe something that I'll check if I don't have it already, and I will just share it again, of all the sampling definitions, so that you can nearly check when you get a question on this, which one will it be? Okay, so then this comes from an old exam paper where it was still paper-based. And this was basically to test if you can, and I think there's a bit more questions. Yes. So it was around testing if you can work out the mean, median, mode, and then I think standard deviation. Okay, so what I'm going to do with this one tonight is I'm actually going to do it in Excel. Then I am going to share the spreadsheet with you guys afterwards as well. Because again, you are allowed to use Excel, you are allowed to use your calculators. Your financial calculators you most of them have the ability that you put in data, and then there are the methods that you can work out your average and your standard deviation. Median and mode cannot be worked out. Well, I don't think my calculator can do that. But I'm going to show you how to do that in any case on Excel, and also with the normal method where we would just rank the data and you will be able to get your median and mode. So let's put in the data. I will also, and sometimes, so these, I think with your current exams, they will normally have less data points, so that it is easier for you to use a formula as well if you need to, because if you get, what is this, 19 or 20, let's just quickly check how many. There's no ways you can do this really with not using a calculator or Excel, because to work out this with a formula page is going to be very, very difficult and will take you very long. So let's just check that all the numbers are also correct. So we have 35, 32, 60, 47, 50, 200, 65, 70, 100, 68, 300, 90, 40, 47, 92, 23, 49, 63, 72. Okay, so the first thing we can work out is the mean. In Excel, there is not a mean function, but the average and the mean is exactly the same thing. So we can work out the mean, and they want us to work it out to 2 decimals. So there is the mean that we needed to work out is 79.11. Okay, so that was easy enough to do with Excel. If you now needed to work it out with a formula, you would have needed to add all of these together. So we can just quickly, so if you needed to do it, you needed to add all of them together and divide it by how many there was. And you can see you're getting exactly the same number. But if you didn't have it, couldn't do it on Excel or your calculator, you now need to say 35 plus 32 plus 60 plus. So it does take time if you're not using one of the technology tools that is available. Okay, the median. So remember, the median is the number that is in the middle of your data. So in the middle of your data is the median, but it is when your data is ranked. Okay, so that is the other important thing. So you can't now say, okay, here was 19, so the number in the middle is 10. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so you can't now say, or 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. That one of those two are your median. You first need to rank the data. So when we do the median in Excel, it automatically rank the data. Okay, so in Excel, it sees it and it will automatically rank the data. Okay, so if you look at that 63, but let's quickly look at the rank data. So one could have ranked this data in Excel as well. So we could have said, let's just sort the data, sort from smallest to largest. And then if we go, that was 1, 2. So if we go down, we would have needed to get to the middle of the data. 10 is in the middle of the data, so we could also see it will be 60, 63. So there was also that method that you could have done to look at the median. So again, you didn't need to use the formula that is based in Excel. You could have automatically ranked that data for yourself, and then if you have gotten to the middle number, you would have seen it is 63. Okay, so I am just including the Excel component as well if you want to use it. So I will share this spreadsheet later tonight on the WhatsApp group, so that we can just you are allowed to use it in your exam. So if you have it, then you can use it. Okay, so let's look at what options or questions 11 and 12 is. So question 11 is the mode. So the mode is the number that appears the most. So the mode is the number that appears the most. So again, there is a mode function. What I like normally is to say multi-mode. So if there is maybe modes that are more than one mode, that can also happen. So I normally like to say, just give me if there's any multiple modes that answer. So, but let's quickly also just, again, let's look at the data. So before we just assume Excel was right. So 47 the mode. So let's look at it's 23, 32, 35, all of them is appearing once, 40 once. Okay, there we have 47 happening twice, 50 once, 50, 60, all of those only once again. So 47 is the number that is appearing twice in your data set. So that is why it is the mode. It is the number that appears most in the data set. Okay, so then the last one is to calculate the standard deviation. Um, so standard deviation, again, we've got a definition that we can work with. Um, we know we're working with a sample, so we're going to use sample standard deviation. So what I will do is to say standard deviation of a sample. And again, we just look at the total data set. And if we need to round it off to two decimals, there we have the 65.77. Okay, so let's just see if I go to my okay, it's just 65.77. There it is as option 2. Okay, so again, I'm showing the Excel component because if we now needed to do the standard deviation for this amount of data, you would have needed to go and say we first would have needed to work out the variance, and the variance would have been to say we take that x point, we needed to subtract the mean, then we would have needed to say that to the power of 2, and that we would have needed to do for all of them. So if you didn't use a calculator, or it does become a lot, let's just hope my formula is right. Then we would have needed to take the sum of that divided by how many numbers there was. So this is just way too much for nearly for you to do in a multiple choice, and then you still needed to take the square root of that. So even if I look at how, and okay, then we get the same answer. But sure, to go through that whole process, if you're not using Excel and you needed to do that on a piece of paper, it will take a lot of time. So again, nearly see if your calculator can do it, see if you have access to Excel so that you might be able to do it on Excel, but see what is for you the quickest and easiest way of getting to some of these answers. I will share the spreadsheet afterwards so that you guys um, can use it, um, and you will see now if we get more questions like this. What I normally do is also I just copy the sheet and use the sheet again, because the queries is now set up that we can do that. Okay, so let's go into another set. So again, they give us a data set. We need to find the mode, the mean, the median. So that's all there. Variance we can add to it, standard deviation, and then also coefficient of variation. And this time around, I added the formula because this is not a formula that is standard in Excel as well. So I will add it now to that spreadsheet that we can nearly work out everything. So, and the nice thing about this now is we can just replace the data. When it stops and we don't have any more data, we'll just delete the rest, and then it will adapt the answers to what is needed. So let's quickly. So sorry, I did not move. Create a copy. That is for questions 8 to 13. Okay, and let's quickly just redo it, and let's just move that to one side when it's easier for me to see. So 10, 12, 12, 8, 30, 12. Okay, so we can nearly see that between 8 and 12 will be our mode because of how many times it appears. But let's delete that. Okay, so now we see we've got 10 numbers in this data set. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, they didn't tell us that we're working with 10 numbers, but we're basically sitting with 10 numbers. Again, the data is not ranked. So what I would do is, just to make 100% sure, I will sort it from smallest to biggest. So now you can also see, if we go through the data, 5 is once, 8 is twice, 10 is twice, 12 is 3 times. So our mode will be 12, and you can see, okay, it is also 12 with what Excel is picking up. So let's first go, okay, so that was actually the first question, was the mode, which was 12. Okay, so even if we did not use Excel, we only ranked the data, we got that our mode is 12. Okay, then let's just look at the median. So without, again, looking too much at Excel, the median would be basically your middle number. So your median in this instance will be between points 5 and 6, because there's 5, there's 5. So in this instance, it lies between 5 and 6. So the number that lies between 10 and 12, that is 11. So if we look at the median that lies between 5 and 6, or between value 10 and 12, it is 11. Okay, so that we have also now confirmed that the median is 11. So there's the median question. The median is 11. Then the question around the mean. So mean is the average, but we can also just check it again. So it is the sum of all those numbers. So 5 plus 8 plus 8 plus 10 plus 10, 3 times 12, 23 and 30. And that we divide by how many numbers there are. So if we just looked at the sum, it would have been 130. So then we know there was a sample of 10. So if we divide 130 by 10, we do get our answer as 13. So we can see that the mean is also correct. How we worked it out as 13. Okay, and you will see that. So for question 8, you had options 11, 12, 13, 14, where the mode was 12. Question 9, 11, 12, 13, 14. There it was answer 13. There was your answer 11. So again, 11, 12, 13, 14. So it's not that they confusing you, but because those numbers are so close, they basically give you the same answers for all three of them, which in the end will then confuse you because you're looking at this and you're like, "Ah, but again the same, but now you're getting a different number. Is it right?" So very easy then to start doubting yourself when you look at these types of answers. Okay, then the variance, and we could have actually before this one where we could have done the sample variance, and that is also a built-in function, variance of a sample. And how we can also test that is with this standard deviation, is that your standard deviation is always the square root of your variance. So these answers must all be the same. So standard deviation that's built into Excel is the same as the square root of your variance, and it's also the standard deviation that is in here that we've seen. The formula is that we used in the previous one as well. So we nearly have 3 different ways to work out your standard deviation, or to make sure that we check it that it is the same answer. Okay, so your sample variance, let's just round it off to 2 as well, is 58.22. And then your standard deviation that we now done is 7,63. And then the last one, coefficient of variation. And your coefficient of variation is your standard deviation divided by your mean. So what you guys now would have seen as well is if you Let me coefficient of variation. So what you would have seen as well is these things are so um, interlinked with one another. So if one nearly makes a mistake at one, it filters through to a lot of the other questions. So it it is very difficult again if you're not doing it with your financial calculator or with Excel, that if you make a mistake somewhere, so if you made a mistake with standard deviation or your mean, now suddenly you get the coefficient of variation also wrong. So what will happen mostly in your exam is you will not get a data set like this where or like this where you need to do 4 or 5 different questions. They will ask you one or two, um, so that you don't need to use some of the information that you needed for the one to get to the second one as well. What they also can do is where we've now worked out this coefficient of variation, what they sometimes also do is to say you need to work out coefficient of variation, and they tell you the variance is a certain number. They tell you the mean is a certain number. They throw in a few other numbers like sample, and they throw in maybe with the mean, they say the median. And then they ask you work out the coefficient of variation, not by looking at the data, but by looking at these 4 numbers. And then you need to nearly remember, but again, it is open book. So you're allowed to have your formula sheets and all those kind of things with you. So you can then say, okay, well, yes, great, coefficient of variation. It is, well, I don't have a variance, but if I take the square root of the variance, I do get my standard deviation. There is my mean. So I actually have the information that I need to work out the coefficient of variation. Okay, so nearly they might, instead of giving you all that data, they might just make it a bit easier, and give you some of the information needed already. The same if you look at where we needed to do the mean, they might give you also and say, okay, the sum of xi was equal to 150. N is equal to 10. And they might even say, okay, well, the mode is 12 and something else. So that you nearly again need to remember, okay, the mean is, oh yes, it's the sum of all the numbers divided by n. Okay, so if I have that, I divide it, I actually know what my mean is. Okay, so there is, they can nearly, instead of giving you the data, nearly assist you in how to get to the answer. but then you need to know what are the things that is in that formula that you need to pick. Okay, so that's a few things around the chapter around stats where we needed to look at mean, median, and mode, um, standard deviation and variance, and the other component of the variation stuff was coefficient of variation. Okay, then just another definition one that I also think then we've nearly covered two definitions a lot on the data side, is the standard deviation of a data set is used to find, okay, the dispersion around the median. Okay, no, there's in that formula we're not looking at the median. The dispersion around the mean. Okay, yes, that is true because remember we said it's the xi minus the mean to the power of 2, the sum of that divided by n or n minus 1, depending on what, if it is the sample or population. So that tells me, yeah, we're looking at the mean, so it might be dispersion around that mean. The relative variability between two data sets, okay, that is, or between data sets, so now that is when we look at correlations and things like that. The average of a data set, okay, so now that is the mean. None of that, so I would still go with the dispersion around the mean. And I hope I've got the, okay, so I don't have a definition, but I will put that into the answer set later on. I will share that definition, but it is the dispersion around the mean. Okay, so, and again, a lot of these things, when you start off, it's like, okay, the dispersion, yes, it is, but then they throw in one word that makes it wrong. The average of a data set, so no, it's not. The relative variability, so also not. So then it is the only one, it is the dispersion around the mean, which is the correct one that we are looking for in this instance. Okay, so that nearly is a few questions around the data component that you guys need to know. So we will, again, there will be more later on that we will look at this, but this was basically chapter 5, the collection of data, so the sampling methods where we had so the only thing that we didn't really look at in these ones is some more other type of data, like a bar chart or anything like that, but all the other things are in here. So this was all around chapter 5 of your study guide. Okay, then you will see I'm mixed it up. Now we're going to have different questions coming up. So the first one is nearly where we need to look at a marginal cost function, and that takes us back to when we did differentiation. So, And let's quickly, so in this one, the question was, suppose that the cost in rand for a daily production of X kilograms of copper is given by this function. Calculate the marginal cost to produce the 100 or 1001 kilogram of copper. Okay, so basically what we will need to work out first is what is the marginal cost function. Um, and the marginal cost function is when we look at total cost and we differentiate that, we will get our marginal cost. So let's swap those two around. So when I want to get my, come on, just that one. I doesn't want to. Okay, I'll get it now. So my marginal cost, how do I get from marginal cost my answer? It is the total cost differentiated. Okay, so I need to differentiate this cost function. So how I differentiate is, remember that 2 goes to the front. So the 2 goes to the front, so let's just make sure that we can see. So it is minus 2 times 1 over 20 x, and then it becomes 2 minus 1, so we will solve that now. Then there's like a hidden one there, goes to the front. 1 times 150 is 150 x, 1 minus 1, we will solve that now. And then if we differentiate a constant value, it becomes 0, so it falls away. So we sit with 2 over 20 times x, and x is 2 minus 1 is x1, plus 150 x1 minus 1 is x0. And to remember, x0 will turn 1. So anything to the power of 0 is equal to 1. So 150 x0 will be just 150 times 1. So that will disappear. And then they ask us, so this is our marginal cost function. But when they ask us, so what to, that we need to calculate the marginal cost to produce the 100, and again I say 100, 1001 kilogram of copper. So what will the value be that we need to put into our X number? Okay, and that you could see here is that you actually, where am I now going? Sorry. Where? Okay, can you guys still see my My screen, it has now frozen on me. Can you guys still see my screen? Just do a thumbs up if you can see it. Okay, cool. Um, so we will need to basically see what it will cost to produce that one extra item. So let's just first make this simplified. So that's 2, that's 1, so that is x over 10 plus 150. So then we will substitute 1,000 into that. Then we will see what it will cost for that extra unit. So, okay, that is, okay. So I was just wondering, because of that negative, that is going to be negative, but 1,000 divided by 10 is 100, so minus 100 plus 150 still gives us a positive 50. Okay, so I was now worried about what that impact is going to be, but it's still positive. So the marginal cost to produce that one extra will cost you 50 rand, and let's just see, it's not something in thousands, it is cost in rand. So it will cost you an extra 50 rand. Okay, but what is important to, okay, and this is not the same one. Let's just, that, there it goes again. Okay, I'm just quickly gonna save this, stop sharing, and then come back into it because it's just doing something weird on my side. Just want to get, sorry about that. I will just want to reopen that. Have had problems for all day with my PowerPoint, so let me just quickly get that back. Okay, so let me just see what is happening here. Okay, can you guys see again? Okay, cool. So here is now it's reacting. So um, just what I did, just in a very neat um, format. So here you can also see with that extra one to get to 1001, we used 1,000, and then that extra cost of producing that extra 1 kilogram is 50 rand. Please just be something that they love to do is in a question like this, they might put here somewhere rands in thousands, and then here now we didn't have options, but then they might have in the options 50 rand, 50,000 rand, 5,000 and 500 rand or something like that. So just be careful that sometimes they reference the rand that it's in thousands, and then your answers that they give when you get the multiple options, there is one that is in thousands. So just be careful sometimes. Um, I I will check for example like that, because I know I have seen one or two examples like that. Okay, so more on that application of differentiation. So again, study unit 6. Um, the profit function to produce and sell X shares is given by this function. Calculate the number of shares that have to be produced and sold in order to maximize the profit. So this one nearly we can do in two different ways. So when we look at maximizing profit, again, we need to differentiate this formula. So that could be the one method, is to say, okay, let's differentiate. So when we differentiate that, it becomes minus 2x. That will become plus 100. And to to maximize it, it will be equal to 0. So we could then say, well, from this, minus 2x is equal to minus 100. X is equal to 50. Okay, so you need to sell 50 shares to maximize it. Let's just I'm quickly going to draw it as well so that you guys can see. So it's negative, so it's going down. So this will be, and there's the negative. So it will look something like this. So where we have there's the minus 20. That will be your maximum point. But that's also what we have in is our turning point. And you guys did a bit on the linear functions and quadratic functions in chapter 2 as well. So yes, we've done this now with chapter 6, where we needed to work out the maximum value or for x, or the x number. But we could have done it also by just looking at that turning point. That is where it will be the maximum. And to work out the x of the turning point, you guys would remember something like a formula of minus b over 2a. And then if you look at that is the b, so it's minus 100 over 2 times minus 1. So minus 100 divided by minus 2 is also 50. Okay, so for this one, you could have actually worked it out with differentiation, which is right. But you could also have done it because it's a quadratic and we know the maximum for the negative is at the turning point. If it was the other way around, this would have just been the minimum instead of maximum, but again, it would have been the turning point. So you can also work it out with the turning point formula, which will give you exactly the same answer. Okay, so I just wanted to show both for you. Again, it's multiple choice, so we're not going to look at how you worked it out. So all that we're gonna is mark your answer. So how you get to that answer, whatever is the easiest way for you to work it out, can get you there. Okay, so what I have included is the method if you do it via the differentiation method. So when you work out that marginal profit with differentiation, that is how I basically did it for you guys. Okay, but they can also ask that same work that we've now done in this way. They can ask it like this, where they say, okay, so suppose the total cost function is this. Define the marginal cost function. Okay, so then we know, okay, how to get the marginal cost. Great, we need to say the total cost function differentiated. And then what I like about these questions is then I will normally go about it step by step. So I would do that first one. So if you take the 3 to the front, 3 times 0, 0.01 is 0, 0.03. That will be x, then 3 minus 1, so it's x to the power of 2. So now what I will do is I will actually check 0, 0.03 x to the power of 2. There's 1. Okay, so 0, 0.01, that's wrong, because that is wrong. 0, 0.03 x to the power of 2, so that can still be 1. 0, 0.02, also not. Okay, so by differentiating just that first component, we already have eliminated 2 of the possible answers. Okay, then let's see, there's a negative, so it will stay a negative. 2 times 0.9 is 1.8, so we've got negative 1.8 x 2 minus 1, so it's x to the power of 1, so it stays as negative 1.8x. Okay, 1.8x, that's correct, but that is incorrect. It must be negative. So we already know now those two are not options. So then, okay, there, great. So that is so far right. I hope they have started to drop the none of the above, but then let's just check the last. So plus 33x, it's plus 33. That's x1, so x1 minus 1 is x0. X to the power of 0 is 1. So we are sitting and left with 33. And then the constant falls away. So our final answer is 0,03x to the power of 2 minus 1,8x plus 33, which is option 3 for this one. Okay, and then what they do is on this marginal cost that you now again worked out, so very much similar to this one where we needed to put in 1,000. So now we've got this marginal cost, and they say, what is the marginal cost if 50 units are produced? Okay, so if 50 units are produced, let's work it out. Okay, so let me get my calculator. I'm not going to try to do that in my head. So 50 to the power of 2 is 2,500 times 0.03. So that's 75. And minus 1.8 times 50 minus 90, sure, plus 33. So 75 minus 90 plus 53 is equal to 18, which is option 2. Okay, just be very careful that if you put in 50 in this original, let's quickly do it and just check. I'm always worried that there's always an answer for you if we, so let's just make 100% sure. So if we put it in that original, that would have been 1250. That would have been minus 2250 plus 53 times 50. Okay, no, this will probably luckily not give you one of those answers. I think it will cancel out. Let's just quickly see. Okay, I will get to that 90 now. Okay, so luckily there wasn't one now that if you worked with it. Okay, so luckily that is not a problem. Unless I have maybe done it wrong. Okay, so the 90, how I got that is the 1,8 times 50. So if I first put in the 50 in this one, that would have been 50 times 50 is 2,500. And 2,500 times 0.03 will give me the 75. But then the 1.8 times 50 gives me the 90. And so that is how I got to the 90. So then 75 minus 90 plus 53 gives you the 18. Okay, perfect. Cool. Okay, so that you now can see the different ways that they nearly can ask you the same type of question. So around this study unit 6, they can ask you, purely give you a formula, you need to differentiate it. Then they ask you with that differentiated formula to work out nearly what is the marginal cost. Otherwise, they can say you maximize it. To maximize, you need to put it equal to 0. Yeah, so there's a few ways that they can ask this type of question to you. Okay, then what I also added is where they give you functions, and you can see we've got a lot of examples still left. So in the next few weeks before you write, we will really go through nearly around 100 examples of different questions, so that we just make sure that whatever type of question that they throw at you guys, um, we are prepared. Okay, so this was one of the first semester assignment questions. So here they ask, consider the two functions hx and gx, and then they said, well, work out the value if you substitute in h, and we're first going to quickly write this down, and then, so in h, you're substituting the value of x with -1. And then you subtract what is in g, and in g we had the function 4x minus 5. But again, instead of just putting in x, it's minus x or -1. And so that's basically what they are asking us to do. And the reason also for all these negative signs, it is so that they wanted to see if you can do the Botmas way to say, okay, brackets, negative, what is the answer? So we will do, and let's do brackets first. So 4 times -1 is -4. -4 minus 5 is -9. And then minus times -9 is +9. Okay, so that component we have sorted. Now let's take the first component. So here it's first brackets to a power. So exponents we need to do first. So -1 to a power of 2. -1 times -1 is 1. Then -1 minus 1. So that becomes -2. So here we've got 2 plus -2. So 2 minus 2, 2 minus 2 is 0, so 0 plus 9 is equal to 9. Okay, which is option B. But you can also see here, if you've made a mistake in this one, to say, yeah, you got maybe something different, or you said -1 times 2, then it would have been 2 to the power of 2 would be 4. 4 minus 2 is 2. 2 plus 9 is 11. Then there was the option for you as well. If you got this component right in saying it's 0, but here you made a mistake with the negative and said, okay, that's maybe +9 times that is -9. There's an answer for you as well. So very important when you guys do look at the equations and where they substitute and those kind of things. I normally would just go and make sure that you put enough brackets around some of these to make 100% sure that you don't miss somewhere a negative sign or positive sign, because unfortunately they nearly, and I don't know how they get this, but they nearly know if you make this one mistake, what the impact is on the answers and what options is left for you. So again, there will not really be a random number in here that you won't be able to get by working it out. So I think that is nearly the important thing as well, is it is very possible even that you get the 0 if you do some weird calculation as well. So it is unfortunate because, again, you think you're working it out correctly. There is an answer for you, and then it is, well, because you made somewhere one sign mistake, your answer is wrong. But yeah, so just be very careful with specifically when you work with all of these, the positive and negative sign. Just make 100% sure that what you're doing makes sense. Okay, so let me just, I want to, where was that one that we did with a straight line? I just want to add it. Okay, that we started off with, it was that one. Okay, I just want to add it to what we're doing now. So here they tell us that the equation of a straight line that is parallel to this line is. So when we look at lines that are parallel, we know when they tell us that the slopes must be the same. Okay, so that is the thing. When I see a question like this where they tell me we've got two lines parallel, the slopes must be the same. So it might not even be that they need to give you all the other information. So let's see what the slope is. And to get the slope, we need to get it in the simplest form as y is equal to. So in this instance, our answer or our line is 3y is equal, sorry, 2y is equal to 3x minus 1. So we need to first get it into the simplest form. So I will need to divide by 2 on both sides. So 2y divided by 2 is y. Then it becomes 3 over 2x minus 1 over 2. So now I have my slope. So my slope needs to be 3 over 2. Okay, so now I look at these options. Okay, so slope 3 over 2, so it's definitely not C because that's 1 over 3. Okay, so now, not great. I need to work this out. So divide by 4. 6 over 4. Okay, if I simplify that, 6 over 4 is actually 3 over 2. So that line is actually, if I simplify it, 3 over 2x plus 2. So there we see, I got the same slope. So option A is the correct one. Let's just check. Okay, to get y on its own here, I will need to divide by 3. So if you divide by 3, then it is 2 divided by 3. Okay, 2 divided by 3 is not the same slope. So that's also why option B is the incorrect one. Okay, but with this one, they actually did not give us a lot of information. So the only information they gave us is to say, well, your equation of a straight line is parallel. Okay, that's all that they said. So when it's parallel, we need to remember, okay, parallel slopes parallel means that the slopes are the same. And because they didn't give you more information, there will only be one of these lines that have the similar slope. They're now not going to list you 2 or 3 that has a slope of 3 over 2, because then they need to give you more information. Then they need to tell you, okay, select one that goes through the point, and they need to give you a point as well. So they can't just say to us, the lines are parallel, and then you have 2 that have the same slope. That is not going to work, because we need to then at least tell you also what is one of those lines. Okay, one of those points that you are going through. Okay, so important thing here around the straight lines was this component of parallel. Okay, so that was nearly the clue, or not nearly, that was the clue on how to get your answer. Okay, then we're gonna end off the session with this one. And again, it might have been in this semester as well, but this is a question from last semester. And it was the first time in last semester's assignments that I saw something like this. So they give you an expression, and then they ask you, which one is it not? Okay, so as we simplify this, only one of them will be wrong. The other 3 will actually be also answers to that simplification. And yeah, to be honest, it is the first time I've seen something like this when it was in last year's or last semester's assignment. So it might have been this time around as well. So let's quickly look at some of these options. So here's three nearly three terms. So when we look at some of these answers, we see, okay, this looks like 4 terms. So this looks weird to me. So that already tells me that that is maybe wrong. Then I look at option 3 or B and C, and I'm like, okay, now this has been simplified, but one is -3, one is -9. At the bottom, both are exactly the same. So this tells me it is going to be B or C that's wrong, because the other ones we can still go and simplify and we might get the answer, but there's definitely a difference between -3 over the square root of 3 and -6 over the square root of 3. So that tells me one of those two is going to be the incorrect one. Okay, so let's start and look at this and break it up and simplify. So when I look at 48 over 4, we're first going to simplify that. So 48, okay, let's break that up. So 48, 2 goes into 48, 24, 2 goes into 24, 12, 2 goes into 12, so there's 6. So does that, I just quickly want to check if I didn't miss it. So 2 times 2 is 4, times 2 is 8, times 2 is 16, times 3 is 48. Okay, so that is, if I just do that, and if I do the same at the bottom, we get 2 times 2, which is 4. Okay, so I just looked at, let's take out the factors out of each number, and we're going to do that for those other two terms as well. Okay, but let's first check. Okay, so I can automatically say square root of 2 and 2, square root of 2 and 2, so I can automatically say it goes there in ones, goes there in ones. Okay, so I'm left with 2 to the power of 2. Okay, so does that help me? That if I calculate that out, 2 to the power of 2 square root, so that tells me I've got that 2 to the power of square root of 3. So that's still not anywhere there. So that is that one. So let's see what happens with this 1 over 12. Okay, that's a weird one also. 12 is 2 times 2 times 3. Okay, so that's still 6 times. And then let's see what can we change anything there. So it's 1 over something like that. I'm just going to check this one again. So then if we simplify that, it's the same as that. And then if we simplify that, 2 goes in there, 2 goes in there 3 times, we get 3 over that. Okay, so at least there we've got something that is similar. Okay, so thank you. Okay, no, we should not. So thank you for that. I was wondering where I made a mistake in the first one. Awesome. Thank you for identifying that for me. So this would not have needed to be like that. So it would have been thank you 2 times 2. So what would have happened here? Let's also do that. So then what we can do, thank you. I would have now gone through that a few times and would not have seen that that is where I made the mistake. Okay, so if we then break this up, so let's do it that way. So if we have the square root of 2 times 2, that is, we can rewrite it as the square root of that. So if I look at what's at the top, that is this one, then it is that one, and then it is that one. Okay, so are you guys happy that we can rewrite it as that? So 2 to the power of 2 covers those two. 2 to the power of 2 covers those two. And then just the normal square root of 3 covers that. And that is over 2 times 2. And then 2 to the power of 2 square root is 2. 2 to the power of 2 square root is 2. And if we then add that, we can cancel those two out, and we sit in the end with that. Okay, thank you very much for that one. So we know that is also correct. Okay, I would have now taken some time to get because I would not have seen I added the square root to that. And how easy it is to make that mistake, and then you get something totally wrong. At least I did flag it, but it would have taken me quite some time. Okay, so thanks for that. And then we've got the 27. So the 27 will be 3 times 3 gives you 9, times 3 will give you 27. So again, here it is 3 to the power of 3. sorry, 3 to the power of 2 times 3. So that will go to the outside, and we will have that component. So there we have it for this one. So we know that one is equal to, so that is not the one that we are looking for. So that one is equal to. Then let's just look at this first one. So 3 plus 3 minus 3 times 3. So what we would have needed to do, again, BODMAS. So 3 times 3 is 9. That is 3 plus 3 is 6. The 6 minus 9 would have given us minus 3 over 3. So those two are exactly the same. And then if we look at this one, so let's just quickly see how we can break this up. So we've got one of them. There we've got another 3, so we've got 4 of them. And then at the bottom, so what we could have added to this is to say, got that. How do we change it to look like that? So we could have just said, let me just quickly, because we now need to get to that answer to make it seem similar. Where were I? That plus, oh, ooh, I missed that as well. Thank goodness. So a few times, so this one is very important not to miss all the things. So if I now look at this power of the square root of 3 minus 3 times that. So if I just look at this one minus that, it would have given me minus 2. And then what I can do to change this one up is, how do I get rid of this at the bottom? So am I allowed to say that and that with just that one term? So then what will happen is 3 times that times that gives me, again, 3. So let's just quickly, if I simplify that, I just quickly want to see if this is a way we can do it. If not, that's simplified minus, okay, this doesn't seem like I'm allowed to do that. Let me just check. That is right, eh? Am I now complicating it for myself? Probably. Let's just quickly take that. So we will need to just check that one we've done is equal to that. So this one, we now just need to see if we add this together, if we also get minus 3 over the power of 3. So that's basically what we need to work out. So we've worked out that one and that one is equal. So now we need to work out that this one and this one is also equal. Okay, so my computer is again going to so let's quickly check. And you can probably as a backup actually go and put everything into a calculator and work it out. So let's just see how do we get that our answer is minus 3 over that. And so we can say that and that added together. So we have it as that. Okay, so then what we do to get rid of the square root or the 3 to the square root of 3, we will need to multiply across everything with that. So okay, that's not going to make any difference, but what am I missing? It must be just because even if I now do this and we do that, mm, okay, wait. This is a difficult one. So we did see that that is equal to that, so that's not a problem. It's just how do we get from this point to there? Because again, that was 6, that was 9, so it was minus 3. So we know this, and that one is the correct one. Those two can't be, so we know that is incorrect, but we just want to show why this one is also not incorrect. That is 3 over that minus 2, so that is correct. Okay, so the other way to do this is to say, let's do it the other way around. And instead of multiplying it out, we do it the way to say, well, let's put both on this, on that. So that is the same for that one. So if I do that, that is going to cancel out. So what do we need to add to this one is actually power of 3 minus 1. That's not going to... Yeah, because then take that way, take that way. Okay. So there we've solved it. So then it becomes 3 square root, or to the power of 2 is 3 times, or 2 times 3. Okay, so there we've solved it, but sheesh, that is 3 minus 6 is minus 3 over that, which is that. Okay, that, I'm sure there's a quicker way to get to this. The quicker way would have been just to use a calculator and say square root of 3 plus 3 over the square root of 3 minus that will give us the same as minus 3 over the square root of that. So that would have been the easiest. Now to battle out to get that in the same format as that. So here we had that component. Then what I did was, in this side, I manipulated it. So to get, and if we basically cancel one of that and we take that away, we do sit with that. So yeah, that was a bit of manipulation to get to that one. And then we can simplify. So the 3 stays with 3. 3 root to a power of 2 is 3. So 2 times 3 is 6. So 3 minus 6 gives us the minus 3. Okay, but your mission to get from this one to that point. Okay, so if this was my honest view how I would have done this in the exam, if this was an exam question, I would have worked out that with a calculator, get the answer. I would go and work that out with a calculator, get the answer, get the answer, get the answer, get the answer, and then the one that is not very close in decimals, I will pick as the incorrect one. Okay, that is, if I'm now relooking this, that is, if I was in the exam with a question like this, I would have gone, worked this out with a calculator, see what my answer is, and for A, B, C, and D, I would have done the same, and then I would have selected the one that is not the similar answer. Yeah, because we've now, if I look at, we've done this, we've broken it up, we've done that, we've done that. This is nearly a 5 to 10 minutes exercise. Then to work from there back to that is another 5 to, so to spend 10-15 minutes on a question like this, where, to be honest, calculator, 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 we probably have, we would have done that in 2 minutes. So re-looking this, if I got this in the exam, I would have said, work it out, calculator, check which one is not the closest, and that is the one that I would pick as the one that is wrong. Okay, guys, so that is it for tonight. We will, from next week, have a session on Monday and Tuesday. So, and you can see I've still got lots of questions that we will work through. But please also, if you have any questions, please put it on the WhatsApp group or send it to me. And then I will add it to the pack. So send it to my WhatsApp on 0837908387 or onto our WhatsApp group. And then next Monday, we will continue with this pack and just work through all old exam examples, old assignment examples, until we've done enough that you guys nearly have all the exposure to what you might get in the exam. Okay, cool. Thanks everyone for joining. I will share the presentation and the recording also on the WhatsApp group. And then